Hey, my name is Joe Latender. Today in this video, we're going to be installing some vinyl plank, and I'm going to be working with a DIYer, a beginner, somebody who hasn't done much vinyl plank. He's done a little bit of vinyl plank, a little bit of laminate, but you're going to see this installation through his eyes, through the questions he asks. I'm going to share a bunch of tips with him that he's never seen before to really help him with this installation, and I think it's going to help you too. I also want to tell you that Flooret is the sponsor of this video. They provided the plank for this video, and it's called Modin Signature. I'm going to be sharing more about that with you later on in the video. But anyway, let's get started. Let's meet Mike. Is this your first plank installation?
It is not.
Okay, so what else have you installed?
Some laminate flooring in the past. And
okay.
I think another vinyl plank flooring that I put in downstairs.
Okay, like a big areas, big square feet, you think? A lot of square feet?
My house isn't real big, but we did the entire main level.
Okay. So when you went into, like, did you go into other rooms, like bedrooms?
Yes.
Things like that?
Yep. Hall, entryway, kitchen, bathroom.
Did you use transitions at all to break the doorways?
I pretty much transitioned every one of them.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, a lot of people do that. Manufacturers even say to do that, but you can do it without, kind of like what we did with the closet here. But anyway, I just wanted to see where you were with that.
So we want to put the flooring down as the spacer for the depth of our floor. That's what we're using, why we're using that to cut this out. And then you're cutting in this far because that's where your transition strip will end up.
Yep. And then the rest of that door jamb deep to the floor still, so it will have a nice look to it.
So what do you consider when you're looking at a room for, is it length, width, transition? What?
The same size piece on both sides, but if we're moving into other areas of the house, then what I would want to have this plank land in the doorway right here so we could easily continue on to the next area. Okay, so normally I put 10 of these together, but because we're in a small room, I'm just going to use 5. Now we're going to use this to help us find the layout. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to measure from one side of the room to the other, get that width, and then we're going to divide that in half.
Okay, so we're around 140.5 inches.
Okay. Now let's measure one more time over here and make sure that, see if the room is crooked or not.
Right about the same, 140.5.
All right, so divide that in half and we're at 70 1/4, right?
Right.
To see if we base the layout off of the center of the room, how large of a piece will we have? That's what we're gonna use the 5 plank that we put together for. So when you're measuring here, you're gonna just measure the finished part of the surface, so put your tape measures right next to it. We're not including the locking system.
Okay.
Stretch your tape out all the way to the end there.
And then there we don't want the groove either?
No. So we're at 44 and what? 7/8?
44 and 7/8.
Okay, so are we to the 70 1/4 yet?
No, we're not.
You can just fold the tape right up.
44 and 7/8 on that edge.
Okay. Now stretch it out until we get to 70 1/4.
So 70 1/4 would
Make
be...
a mark on that plank at 70 1/4. Now if you measure from the beginning of this plank to that mark, that's how big your piece is going to be on both sides of the room.
Roughly 7.5 inches.
We like that, right?
The bulk of the plank looks better than a sliver, is what you're getting at?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay. The other thing is measure from this line to the end of the plank.
We are about 1.5 inches.
So that means that that 1.5 inches is going to go into our doorway, which is going to land perfectly in there for us. Now we don't need to let it in there. We can cut this off. But if we were continuing out into the hallway, that would be perfect because it would land in the door and not something like that where we'd have to wrap around both sides. So now that we know that that's the measurement that we're going to go with, we want to measure away from this wall down here and down there 70 1/4 in 2 different spots, and then we're going to snap a chalk line all the way through this room.
All right, there's 70 1/4 on this end.
Okay.
I just used a tape measure downstairs when I was doing that.
Okay.
I I got why we put 5 pieces together.
Yep.
Because downstairs I just went off of what the box said.
Right.
And I got to that last wall where I was supposed to come out perfect and I needed to scab in a piece that way. Yeah, that
Because the box never
is never right.
I mean, if it says it's 7 inches, it's going to be 6 and something or 7 and something. It's never going to be 7 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, that got me downstairs, so.
Okay, now the plank that we used has a pad attached. So we didn't really need to use a pad, but you brought it up that you wanted to use a pad maybe for, what was the reasoning?
Well, the subfloor in this is like a pine that's like a tongue and groove, and it's very loud, and our bedroom is right below it, and we were replacing carpet. So we thought with another additional pad it would insulate the noise transition from up here down to our bedroom more.
Okay, which I do believe that it will. A lot of people are going to ask, Mike, so I'm just going to ask you, why the heck would you cover up a wood floor?
Well, it was just a single layer of pine, and along the walls it had some gaps. I could actually see up through it from my bedroom, and in the centers it had shrunk. So it looked nice, but we felt like it would be very loud up here, just going with that.
Which I agree with you. I think that you guys made the right choice. I just wanted to ask that question because I know people are going to comment about it, because they always do whenever I go over a wood floor. But
oh, when I pulled up the carpet, I really liked the look of it below it, but for that reason,
so noise reasons, things like that. Yeah,
extra layers.
So we have the tongue and the groove. We want to work away from the groove. So here's our tongue side, and then here's our groove side. So we want to work away from the plank this way and this way. Put our tongue towards our starting wall. So this will be where we'll lay our first plank. So what I like to do, Mike, is just kind of lay it next to the plank that I'm putting down, and then I'll start walking this way.
Yeah.
I see if this doesn't match it, so now I'll use that one. Same thing. This looks like it's different to me, so we'll use this one. Okay, perfect. Now the next piece is too long. We need to cut it before we can put it in. So what we want to do is get this plank straight with the line that we snapped before we do that. We're just going to straddle that joint kind of evenly with this plank on both sides. So I'll help you get this in. Now this is where it's going to get a little tougher because none of this is perfectly straight yet, but this is what's going to help us get it perfectly straight.
Okay.
Okay, before you hit anymore, get on top of it like I'm on it so it doesn't move while you're doing it. Okay, that plank fell flat, so now we know that it's nice and straight. All of it's connected here, it's nice and flat. So now we can move this around and it's not going to come apart on us.
Okay.
So now what we want to do is we're going to pull this away from the wall. What did we figure, a 9-inch piece or a 7-inch piece in the beginning? So we just want to start about 7 inches away from the wall. I'm about 6. So here's the line we snapped, right? So I'm going to have you measure now, and I want to measure from this line to the plank that we just installed, and we're going to position it perfectly a certain amount of plank away. So imagine if I connected plank from this line all the way over to that plank, that's where it would end. Does that make sense?
Right, if we continue working off of that, we should come out perfectly on this line with a plank.
Yeah. So Mike, take this scrap piece, hook it on down there so that we have another piece down there that we can measure off of. The end of that to the end of this plank.
43 7/8, or 53 7/8.
I'll put it up. So I'm putting it up on top of the locking system, and I want you to tell me which way do I need to go with the plank.
Well, right there, maybe a hair back, right there.
So Mike, what I like to do is where the joint is in this first row, I like to measure away from where that is. So
Okay.
come with the tape measure right here.
A little more.
gonna use these for is to secure our plank, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute. It'll all come together really soon. So basically, hook the plank on,
Okay.
put that screw inside that scrap piece. Perfect. Okay, Mike.
Okay.
Put another piece in. Right on the seam, there you go. Okay. Now because these planks are so long, sometimes I like to even put them right here in the middle too, just to give it a little more support right there. Figure out an easy way to mark and cut this. As you can see, this is the groove, right?
Yes.
Groove there on this plank.
Yeah.
We just want to take this plank and reverse it. So now the tongue is facing us. Slide that plank all the way to the wall.
Okay.
And now where the groove ends right there, that's where we're going to mark it to get our expansion joint.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll cut that off, flip that around, that'll be your cut piece.
All right, so we want her tight against the back, and you just snap this down.
Yep.
Right there.
Okay. Okay, Mike, now the reason why I do this like this is I want you to just give this floor a good kick.
Not moving. We started away from the wall with scraps.
Yep.
I had never done that. I started
Secured
along
it.
the wall. And I remember fighting, keeping that first few rows straight until you could get them locked. And it was much easier doing it that way, the way you had to do
Yeah,
it.
building a nice solid foundation, easily to work off of.
Yeah.
Now we don't need these anymore, so let's take these apart and we're gonna use these for our next few rows.
Okay.
This is how the plank's supposed to go in there. I'll just flip it around and I'll do that for a couple of them. Now I'm just gonna come up with my own pattern. Like right here, I haven't had a joint, so I'm gonna make a mark there. Haven't had one here. Haven't had one there. And this is where I'm gonna cut my plank then. So we're using a guillotine cutter to cut the plank. What's nice about this is you can have it right in the room right next to you, so you don't have to get up and down, which is really nice for us old timers. I'm going to leave a link below in the description of this video so you can click on that and go check it out on my tools page. Okay, so this is down here. Now those pieces right there, just pick them up and bring them down to the other end because that's where we're going to use them. So now I can start this plank here, then do this one, or I could do it like this. Now this is more of a step, but they are spread apart. So you have all sorts of options here that you can use to get these joints in different spots. The main key is that you never want it to line up with another joint.
Is there a measurement you would like it to be between joints as far as from one to the next?
Just as long as it's like an 8 inches or less, or 8 inches or more. I don't like to get any closer than that, but with a plank like this where it's so long, you don't ever have to get that close. So what I want to do is what you did before. Get this part locked into the joint. And I want to have it a 1/4 inch away on that end, and then just let it flop down. Now sometimes it'll go down flat, and sometimes you'll have to use the tapping block. Okay, so for the next piece, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it locked into the long joint. I'm going to bring it as far as I can to this joint. Now I'm making sure that I don't go past the finished part of the plank. The tongue is just going to be clearing this edge, so I'll bring it forward and I'm going to lock this down by starting to tap it with my plank hand. You can see how it just fell. Now I've cleared here. Okay, now to make this joint really easy to get together, because these planks are so long, I want to use this piece right here as what I'm going to call a bridge piece. So get it locked in. Now I'm going to use a couple of tools to hit this way. Before I hit that though, I need to stop this plank from moving by using a spacer. So I'm gonna slide this spacer in here. That's gonna stop this plank from moving this way. Now I'm gonna take a scrap piece that has the tongue on it. I'm gonna insert it into the groove, get it locked in. I'm gonna use my pull bar and my dead blow hammer, and I'm gonna hit the plank this way until that joint locks in down there. Is it moving?
Yes, it is. Looking good now. What do you think?
Yeah, that's tight.
That's good, yes.
Okay, hold on a second. I think we're still up a little here, so I want to show you. So if you just grab this right here, hold on to the back, and then just keep this part up tight against. And then just swing it while this end stays on. Is it good? Alright, push it down and then I'll bridge it in. Now the tool I've been using here is called the plank hammer. This is really a nice tool to be able to get the plank together. Whether you have a vinyl plank or a laminate, it's really a great tool to have and to be able to use. I'll have a link for my tools page below. That's where you can find this, so check it out. Bring it this way a little bit more, so yeah, so it's centered a little more. There you go.
Okay. All right.
A little more. Good.
Okay, so you flipped it over backwards
Yep.
and you made your mark just inside the end of the groove, right?
Yep. Is it locked?
Looks like it is.
Perfect. Now let me ask you, do you think this stuff's hard to do?
This is not hard to put together, no.
Okay. So we're using Quiet Walk LV pad here. It's 1.4 millimeters thick, meant for vinyl plank. I do want to tell you not all vinyl planks should have an additional pad underneath it. And I do have a video that you can watch, and I'll leave a link in the description for that explains if you should have pad underneath your plank or not. Down there, I want to have a little bit of a gap along here. I don't want it to overlap at all, so I'd rather have like an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch gap.
Okay.
And this is our double face tape. And overlap it and press down. So the vinyl plank that we're using has a very durable locking system. It's also called an angle-to-angle locking system, which gives the strength that the plank needs to be able to have an additional pad underneath it. And this pad that I'm using, I really like it because it has the fibers on the back of it, which allows it to breathe underneath, which was important to me because we were going over a wood floor. I wanted to allow that to be able to breathe. I think that this is the best pad out on the market, and I'm going to leave a link below to my tools page where you can go check this out for yourself. I highly recommend Quiet Walk LV. Okay, so now this one right here is going to hit the door, so we need to mark and cut this. So the easiest way to do this is just take another scrap piece, hook it on right here, and then hook this piece onto that. And you just want to slide it to wherever you don't have a joint. And to make a cheater board, we want to make sure we leave a little bit of this groove on, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, but we're just gonna cut off some of this groove here to shrink it up a little bit. And that's what the amount that we leave on there is what's gonna be our expansion joint. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna cut like maybe a 1/4 inch off, or not a 1/4 inch, but an 1/8 off of this. So I'm not taking all the groove off, but a good part of it. You can kind of see what that looks like.
So the reason you cut this piece off is just so we would have a smaller gap in here after the cut?
Yeah, because if we left that piece on, then we'd have almost like a 3/8 gap there, and we don't need that big of an expansion joint. So the tongue is about a 1/16, and then I left on about an 1/8. The width of the marker, wherever you mark it, that's gonna add another 1/8, so we got probably close to a 1/4 inch then,
Okay.
if we cut the line off. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So basically how much you're gonna want your space here.
Yeah.
You move that over for that cut.
Yeah, and because this is all square, we can just run a marker right along there and we know that it'll be good.
Okay.
Now before you even move it, you can just make your mark this way then.
And this is your gap.
Yep, exactly. So if you pull that away, that's what we're gonna cut out, and when we do, that plank will fit right in there. Looks pretty good. Now what we want to do is like what we did on the very first row, we're going to bridge this a little bit. We're going to make sure it's completely straight. Then we're going to secure pieces and screw those down. If this had a door jamb, it's a lot easier to have a joint.
So is this a special blade you're using in this? Or?
No, it's just a standard general jigsaw blade with this particular vinyl plank. But there are some, I use a fiber cement blade.
So we're going to be a little bit short of the wall a few inches here, Joe. Do we add a second, just a small piece in then up against the wall?
So we are going to add a piece, but we're going to wait and do it later. It's always easier to work away from the door and then add a piece like that later. Kneel on it though.
Hold down on this.
Hopefully. And then press down on this while I hit it.
Okay.
Moving?
One more. That looks tight.
Okay. Perfect. Now you can let go with the one hand and get a better leverage with your plank hammer. There you go.
Broke a little chunk
That's
of that.
okay if you broke it a little. Is it not going in?
Not quite in there yet.
Okay, what you want to do is get your hand underneath the vinyl plank a little bit farther back towards the camera.
Back here?
Your left hand, get it under a little bit, hold it up at an angle, clear your hand a little bit farther back so that it's out of the way of the plank hammer. Now try to use the plank hammer to tap it in.
There it went.
Okay, now hit the whole plank again with the plank hammer. There you go. How's that?
Good.
Okay. Now as Mike and I continue to install this vinyl plank, I want to talk to you a little bit about it. Now this plank is made by Flooret and it's Modin Signature. Now this is the color Rayburn, and this plank is a 9x72. It's a massive, beautiful plank. It's very durable. You can see how realistic it looks. It has the micro beveled edges on it, and no, dirt does not get stuck in those. Just look at how realistic this looks. Now if you're interested in getting some samples of this plank, you can order a sample kit from them, something similar to this. This is their best sellers kit. They do offer other types of kits, or you can just order some single samples. Now I'm going to show you how you can go and find that link. If you just click on the more of the description below this video, you'll find the link down there to Flooret where you can just click on that and then also use the coupon code. So that's how 50. That's going to get you 50% off of the samples. By the way, you can find a link to my tools page down there also. Now the shipping on these samples are absolutely free. And then if you decide that you want to buy some plank from them, it's just a $1.99 flat rate shipping fee. It doesn't matter if you order 100 square feet or 6,000, it's still only going to be $1.99, and they're going to bring that curbside to you. Now, I have a review video on the Flooret products, and you can go see that for yourself. I will leave a link in the description below, so you can also click on that link to go check it out, and you'll find out why this is my favorite vinyl plank and why I've been working with Flooret for over a year now, promoting this product. I reached out to them a little over a year ago and asked if we could collaborate. I heard so many good things about Flooret, such as their customer service, which I believe is the best out there. I don't think there's another vinyl plank company out there that could touch Flooret. You don't need to worry about ordering this online. Flooret's got you covered better than any store that you could go and purchase your plank from. So I suggest you check out Flooret, and if you have any questions at all, contact Flooret. Contact their support department. They're going to answer any questions for you that you might have. You can also ask some questions here below the video if you have any. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Go ahead, check them out. Let me know how it goes. Alright, now we only have the last 2 rows, the row going into the door and the last row that we left out in the very beginning. So let's get rolling. All right, so the first thing that we want to make sure of here is that we have a joint somewhere in this door. It's going to make it easier to put this plank in. We want this top piece to line up with the plank perfectly underneath, but have the joint different. Ready? Now we can just take another vinyl plank. Let's just make that mark.
Does that look right? And then we draw out to here.
Yeah, so if you check the cheater board first, slide it under to see where it would end. Here, let's use a different piece. So we know if the plank slides underneath, you could go that far over. Does this make sense what I'm saying? You see how far it pushes under?
Okay.
We don't want it to make our mark to cut it right there because we want to have an expansion joint somewhere like that. So there would be your 1/4 inch expansion joint, right?
Okay. So we want the plank to be under this, but have it a little room to move.
Yeah. So you're gonna put the cheater board there, and you can just put it right where that mark is, and then make your mark on the plank. Does that make sense?
So go from there and make a mark right here,
Yep.
and then come up to this spot.
Yep. And now finish going down the wall.
So when you did yours, you're at an angle like that?
You can be at an angle.
Okay. We were talking earlier about how you get this marker off the planks if there's some that's showing. What product do you use for that?
So we're gonna use denatured alcohol, or you can use rubbing alcohol. Mr. Clean Dry Erase. So what I'm doing here is I'm modifying the locking system, and I'm taking the lip of the groove off. And the reason why I do this is so that we don't have to lift the plank at an angle to get it together. When you can see the lip right here, is all I do is run the utility knife right down the edge of that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use some clear Gorilla Glue. And before we do that, we want to activate that clear Gorilla Glue with water. So I'm taking a terry cloth that I got wet, and I'm going to make sure that I get that on the groove and also on the tongue. So you want to make sure that you get that moist. And as all I did was dip that terry cloth right in water. I wrung it out just a little bit, so there's definitely some water on there. And then I'll just rub that terry cloth right down the locking system. Now again, that's what's going to activate the clear Gorilla Glue to make sure that this is going to hold for you. Now be sure that you run a nice good bead of the clear Gorilla Glue right down the joint like I'm showing. And now we're just going to slide this plank in here. Now you can see how the plank goes underneath the door jamb. There's no way I could lift that plank up right now to get it at an angle to get it locked in. And when you have a very big, long plank, especially a thick vinyl plank like this that's extremely durable, not very bendable, well, it's going to take modifying the locking system to get that together. Now once you're all done putting that plank together, take that rag with denatured alcohol again and clean that joint off really good. You don't want to leave any clear Gorilla Glue left on top of this plank. If it dries, it's going to be very difficult to get off if you get it off at all. Now I'm just going to continue on doing the same thing. You can see how easy this makes this to be able to put the plank in when you are in a doorway. Just modify that locking system. Now I can bend it a little bit to get that joint together. Not quite all the way. We'll finish that up in a little bit, but now let's put the long joint all together. So I use my plank hammer to get it started, and then we're going to finish it off using our pull bar. So we'll get that short joint together, and now we go down and get the long joint all together using that pull bar. Once we get that plank locked together, I make sure I wipe the joint off really good, and then we're going to apply some blue tape to hold those plank together, and we'll leave that blue tape on until the next day. Yeah, let's use a spacer. Okay, as we go down, just wiggle. There you go. Okay, let me work it in with the bar. There you go. Perfect. Okay, that's perfect. That one hardly needed any. Let's give her a little love with the.
Oh, there.
There you go. Little wiggle. Okay, I need you to come my way then.
Ready?
Yep. One more. Good.
Wow.
Should go in nice.
Did that fall in already?
It already fell in
Wow.
because it's not 7 feet long.
I got it too close to the wall now.
Here. There you go. Ooh, look at that.
Go in?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. With the small pieces, it pry bar works really well.
Good.
It's all locked in.
Looks like it.
Okay.
Flat.
Last piece. Well, now that the plank's all done, it's time to put on some finishing touches. Now, this is a situation where I will use a transition, and the transition that we're using here is called a reducer. Is all I'm doing is figuring out right now where I need to position that track, so I leave an expansion joint, and so part of that reducer covers the edge of the plank floor. I pre-drill the pilot holes in the track that's provided with the transition, and then I'm going to use some small wood screws to secure that down into the floor. Now, I don't even need to pound this down with a rubber mallet or a hammer. I just get it to start in the track, and then I use my hands to press it into the track. Has a really nice finished look when it's all done. And again, this is the only type of situation where I usually use transitions. Now take a look at this floor when it's all done. Doesn't that just look stunning? So overall, this is a really big, long, wide plank. Do you think that this plank that you installed in this bedroom was more difficult to install than most of the other ones that you've installed?
It was comparable.
So putting the plank into the joint and then sliding it and then using the mallet and the pull bar with the scrap piece to get the small joint together, you thought that was for the most part pretty easy?
Yeah, it worked good. You had an occasional plank for some reason was a little more stubborn than others, but most of them just a couple taps and they popped right together.
Okay, so then using the cheater board, you thought that was simple?
Yeah, well, like when we scribed along the wall you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yep, that was pretty straightforward. And then we used basically a cheater board to go into the closet.
Right.
So it was that was pretty straightforward too. So it was nice to
Okay.
learn techniques of measuring without even having to grab your tape measure. Just like getting our end board against the wall, flipping it backwards to measure it, and then cutting it, and that was real quick.
So you picked up a few things.
Yes,
All
stuff
right.
that would have been very handy to know before.
So doing this, you definitely would take on another project someday on your own?
Well, my wife would make me.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And you got a few tips that you can
That would
go off.
speed things along.
Yeah, that last row we did the planing glue method because we had the doorway there and there was no way with these big wide planks that we were going to do that without. So a lot of times I'll modify that locking system, and that's common to do on a lot of different spots in your installation, especially more with a laminate than a vinyl plank. If this was a thinner vinyl plank, we probably could have got away with not doing that, but you've never seen that before.
No, I have never seen that gluing technique. Like
And here we are a few days later, the floor's not coming apart there, so the glue
Nope.
it obviously held.
Yeah, we just, like you said, we left the tape on the seam overnight and I pulled it off the next day and it's looking good.
Yeah. Anything else?
How about these short entryways here? Is there something you should look out for in that?
Yeah, I mean, I still have a scab on my head, a scar forever from that door.
Oh, Joe scalped himself almost right off the bat.
Yeah, I won't forget that, man.
No, I won't either.
I wish that I would have had that on camera other than me saying, oh. But, all right. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you letting me do the install in your house.
Well, I appreciate you coming over and showing me your tricks.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. So there you go. Now you've seen an install through the eyes of a DIYer. I hope this video was good for you. First time I kind of did something like this, and I just want to say again, thank you, Mike, for letting me come into your house, for being on camera for me, buddy. I really do appreciate it. Maybe you're somebody else who wants me to come and help you with an install. Maybe you have some floor prep you want some help with, or just the layout. Why don't you leave some comments below and maybe we can hook up. I can come and shoot a video with you. I don't know. Let's see how this one does. Now, I just also want to say, hey, if you decide to get some samples from Flooret, yes, I do make a commission on that. It's not, I promote Flooret because they're a good product, and if you do use my coupon code, so that's how 50 when you buy those samples, I want to say thank you for that blessing. If you decide to buy plank from them, you can also use that coupon code. You're not going to get another discount, but it will show them that I was the one who sent you there, and I want to say thank you for that blessing also. Now check out my tools page for all of those tools that I've been using. If you have any questions, let me know below. And I just want to say thank you, and I pray that God blesses you and your family today, and I pray for that in Jesus' name. Have a great day. I'm Joel Attender. I'll see you on the next video.